NASA images show something impossible under the Antarctic ice. Straight, uniform stumps where no trees should exist. We've been told Antarctica is a frozen desert, a lifeless continent buried under miles of ice for millions of years. No forests, no soil, no ecosystems, just wind, ice, and silence. That is the official story. But the archives show something very different. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it, because hidden beneath the ice, and in some cases visible even from orbit, are patterns that do not belong to glaciers, do not belong to natural erosion, and certainly do not belong to randomness. They look cut. They look deliberate. They look like the remains of something that was once alive, and then systematically removed. So what are these formations? And more importantly, why do they look like tree stumps? To understand this, we need to start with what we've been told about Antarctica. According to mainstream science, Antarctica has been covered in ice for roughly 34 million years, long before humans existed, long before any civilization could have developed the tools or intent to alter an entire continent. In this model, Antarctica once had forests. Yes, that part is true. Fossil evidence shows that millions of years ago it was warm, green, and full of life. Giant trees grew near the poles. Dinosaurs roamed. The climate was radically different. Then came a gradual cooling. Ice sheets formed. The continent froze. Life disappeared. Simple, clean, closed case. But here is where the story starts to fracture. Because when researchers began analysing high-resolution satellite imagery, they noticed something strange beneath the ice layers in certain regions. Patterns. Repeating formations. Clusters of vertical structures arranged in unnatural grids. Not random, not chaotic. Organised. And when these images were enhanced, filtered and studied over time, a disturbing consistency appeared. The formations had similar diameters, similar spacing, similar height profiles. They looked engineered or harvested. At first, these anomalies were dismissed as geological artifacts. Ice deformation. Subglacial ridges. Rock protrusions shaped by pressure and time. But the more data accumulated, the harder that explanation became to defend, because geology does not create uniform spacing at scale. Glaciers do not carve identical cylindrical formations in repeating patterns. Nature is irregular. This was not. And then came the deeper scans. Ground-penetrating radar surveys revealed vertical structures embedded beneath layers of ice, extending down into what appeared to be sedimentary ground. Not bedrock. Not jagged formations. Smooth. Column-like, with flattened tops, as if something had been cut cleanly. Not broken. Not eroded. Cut. And that changes everything. Because if something was cut, then something, or someone, did the cutting. Now consider the scale. Some of these formations measure several meters across. That alone is unusual. But more striking is the distribution. They appear in clusters spanning kilometers. Not isolated, not rare, massive. Entire regions where these structures dominate the subglacial landscape. Imagine standing in a forest where every tree has been removed, leaving only the stumps. Now imagine that forest stretching for miles. Now imagine it frozen in time, perfectly preserved under ice. That is what the data suggests. But here is where the story becomes even more uncomfortable, because the preservation is too perfect. Ice is not just a destructive force. Under the right conditions, it is also one of the most effective preservation systems on Earth. It halts decay, it locks structures in place, it freezes moments in time. And in Antarctica, it does this at a continental scale, which raises a critical question. What if the ice did not just form over a dead landscape? What if it formed over an active one? What if something happened quickly? A sudden freeze, a rapid burial, a moment when whatever existed there was locked in place before it could decay, collapse, or disappear. There are precedents for this. Entire mammoths have been found in permafrost, preserved so well that their flesh remained intact. Plants, seeds, even stomach contents frozen mid-digestion. These are not slow processes. They are abrupt, catastrophic, and they leave signatures. Antarctica shows signs of such signatures. Rapid ice accumulation layers, abrupt shifts in sediment composition, buried surfaces that appear far younger than the ice above them. This suggests that the freezing of Antarctica may not have been a slow, gradual process. It may have been sudden. And if it was sudden, then whatever existed there before was caught in that moment, including these structures. Now let's address the most obvious question. If these are tree stumps, where are the trees? The answer, based on the pattern, is unsettlingly simple. They are gone. Removed. Not destroyed by nature, not decayed over time. Removed. The uniform height of many of these structures suggests cutting at a consistent level. The spacing suggests organized harvesting. The absence of fallen material suggests extraction, not collapse. This is not what a natural forest die-off looks like. This is what logging looks like, but not logging as we know it. Because the size of these formations implies something extraordinary. We are not talking about ordinary trees, we are talking about massive growth structures. Polar giant trees. Trees that could have reached sizes far beyond what we see today, and if such trees existed, they would represent a completely different biosphere, a different Earth, a different history. Which brings us to a critical point. We've been told that human civilization is only a few thousand years old in terms of advanced capability. We've been told that large-scale industrial activity is recent. We've been told that before that humans were limited, primitive, scattered. But what if that is not the full story? What if there were periods of advanced activity that have been erased, buried, or simply forgotten? Because cutting an entire forest of giant trees across a continent is not a small operation. It requires coordination, tools, purpose, and intent. So who or what did it? There are several possibilities. The first is that these formations are misinterpreted geological features. This is the official fallback. But as we've already seen, the consistency and patterning challenge that explanation. The second is that these were natural trees, and some unknown natural process removed them. But again, nature does not operate with such precision. Which leaves the third possibility, that this was deliberate, that an intelligent force harvested these trees, and that this event occurred shortly before Antarctica froze. If that is true, then the ice did not just preserve the land, it preserved the aftermath, a snapshot of a world immediately after a massive extraction event. Now consider another layer. Satellite imagery has revealed not just stumps, but linear markings extending across some of these regions. Long, straight paths, intersections, grid-like formations. These are not typical of natural terrain beneath glaciers. They resemble pathways, transport routes, or extraction lines. If something was removed from this region, it was not random. It was systematic, organized, scaled. And then everything stopped, frozen, locked, silenced, and covered. Which leads to a deeper question. Why is this not widely discussed? Why are these anomalies not front-page scientific debates? The answer may lie in how information is filtered. Most people never examine raw satellite data. Most rely on interpreted summaries. And anomalies that challenge foundational timelines tend to be categorized, explained away, or simply ignored. Because acknowledging them opens a chain reaction. If Antarctica was not always frozen, if giant forests existed there more recently than we're told, if those forests were deliberately removed, then our understanding of Earth's timeline changes. And not slightly. Fundamentally, because it suggests a recent past that was far more complex, far more active, and far more advanced than we've been led to believe. Now let's connect this to other parts of the world. There are regions in Siberia where massive tree-like structures have been found fossilized in upright positions. There are plateaus with strange circular formations that resemble root systems. There are deserts where petrified forests stretch for miles. In many of these places, the patterns are similar. Uniform spacing, sudden termination, signs of rapid burial. It is as if something happened globally, a shift, a reset, and Antarctica may be one of the most preserved records of that event, because ice does not forget. It holds. It preserves. It reveals slowly. And as technology improves, more of these hidden structures are becoming visible. More patterns are emerging. More questions are forming. But answers remain limited. Because the implications are too large, if this narrative holds even partially true, it suggests that Earth has undergone cycles of development and reset. That advanced activity may have existed before recorded history. That entire ecosystems, and possibly civilizations, have been erased and preserved in fragments, and that what we see today is only the latest layer, not the full story. So what do we do with this information? We observe, we question, we compare, and we remain open to the possibility that the official story is incomplete. Because history is not always written in books. Sometimes it is written in ice. Sometimes it is buried beneath miles of frozen silence. And sometimes it is visible from space, waiting for someone to notice, waiting for someone to ask why. Why are there uniform stumps beneath Antarctic ice? Why do they appear cut? Why do they align in patterns that resemble harvesting? Why do they exist at all in a place we've been told was lifeless for millions of years? These are not small questions. They are foundational. And they deserve attention. Because once you begin to see the inconsistencies, the gaps, the anomalies, it becomes clear that something is missing from the narrative. Something significant, something deliberate, and perhaps something hidden in plain sight. So the next time you look at a map of Antarctica, do not just see a blank white continent. See layers, see history, see possibility, because beneath that ice, there may be an entire story waiting to be uncovered. And if that story is real, then everything we think we know about our past needs to be re-examined. Carefully. Critically. Without assumptions. Because the truth does not disappear. It freezes. It waits. And eventually, it surfaces. If you found this investigation thought-provoking, take a moment to engage with it. Like the video so it reaches more people. Share your perspective in the comments. And subscribe for more deep explorations into the hidden layers of our world.